WRLNTS Net nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
Only 5 minutes, 5 minutes. KF5JHA.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet. everyone. It says 3:30:19. Saturday, Skynet trip, preamble. Oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to read that. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 2100? That would be 9 p.m. Skynet. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha. My name is Chad, and I'll be your net control, or as some people have said earlier, out of control, for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs, that would be amateur radio operators, amateur astronomers, just amateurs in general, become more familiar with the night sky, the daytime sky, astronomy, space exploration, and those kind of things. Is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any enter the net anytime by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic right now? This is a directed net. These do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on a frequency of 146.88 megacycles. I like what you said, Mike, earlier. With a private line tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the Echolink mode 37247. And live audio video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is approximately 90 minutes long and is structured into, 11 different parts? Announcements, information from the Texas Astronomical Society, information from the National Space Society. Discussion topic of the evening was a featured constellation, and I think it's a constellation, not an object tonight. Recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages. If we've got time, it's going to be cloudy most of the week anyway, so I don't know if we need that. Questions and answers. We'll solicit questions and answers along the entire way. Amateurs that are licensed to transmit on this station are invited to check in. We're going to check in groups of 3. And please ID with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from this evening, and we'll do this in groups of 3. So try to go slowly. This is my first Skynet net control station in over 5 years. So please come now. First 3.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike,
Tony in Dallas. And Chaz, you have a horrible echo, like an echo sound effect.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Much. I've got you, Bill, Tony, and Brenda, and I'll see if I can rectify that echo in the background. I apologize. Okay, for the next three, please come down.
Golf 5, Papa, Mike, and Richardson. I think that echoes Tony's dog.
Hello, Foxtrot 5, Quebec, Delta, Quebec. Eric in Garland.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen.
Thank you very much, Mike and Eric and William. Let's go now for the next three. Go ahead.
In Quinlan.
So, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
We'll stop there because we actually had a double, but I pulled out both of you. I've got Carolyn, Kelly, and then I heard you clearly, Bill. All right, the next three, go ahead.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Yeah, I've got the first 11 right up front. Let's go to Echolink and see if we can get some people on Echolink checked in. So right now, if you're on Echolink and you'd like to check in, please do so. I will check the chat window to see if there's anybody that doesn't have audio that wants to check in now.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy in Sherman.
This is November 5, Yankee Echo Oscar. Stephen, back in San Antonio.
Okay, I've got three people. JJ says he's just listening. Billy and Steven. I see John in Norman, Oklahoma. We'll check you in as well. I'll take any modes, any more additional check-ins into Skynet this evening right now.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
got you as well. Thank you so much. So I'll do some more rounds of check-ins in just a few moments. Ted, thanks for letting me know you were low power. I forgot to do low power check-ins at the beginning. I apologize. Well, let's go ahead and get started with general announcements. Does anyone have any general announcements for this evening's net? It can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to licensed amateur radio operators.
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Up, Tony. Go for it.
Hi, Pat. Excuse me. I'm reading emails, too. Hi, Chaz. Good evening, and I'll try to talk for a little while to give you some time to troubleshoot that echo. This is not the last net for the evening. Remember that we do have the Afterglow movie discussion coming up at 10:30 p.m. tonight. Tonight's movie is the science fiction ham radio suspense movie from 2000, Frequency. It's in color and has sound and everything. So if you've watched that or if you're just getting started, you can join us for the discussion tonight right here on this repeater at 10:30. Also do have other announcements from TechNet posted up there at w5fc.org, and don't forget that you can follow along with this net by using the video link available from the Skynet post at w5fc.org. That's always fun. Now, we have tomorrow a fifth Sunday, so there are no club nets tomorrow. There's the usual National Traffic System net at 6:30, but there is no meeting on the air or RACES training net tomorrow. Don't forget, though, that we do have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club monthly meeting coming up this Tuesday, April 2nd. It's Old Timers Night. It's actually a lot of fun. We don't talk about ailments. We talk about why we got into the hobby and what's kept us involved or what's kept them involved for so long. We can talk about what's got the rest of us involved, too. So another net tonight, no meeting on the air or RACES net tomorrow, but a club meeting coming up this Tuesday. That's the exciting news, NT5TM.
U5P recheck.
Thank you very much. Mike, go ahead with your recheck.
Yeah, Tony, could you repeat the Old Timers Night schedule, KG5P?
Sure, that's this Tuesday at the regular club meeting, at the regular Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting. There's a map at w5fc.org, but it's in the third floor community room of the main hospital building of the Dallas Medical Center at Webb Chapel and LBJ on the northeast corner. So that's Tuesday at 7 for the program part. That's what you're probably interested in. NT5TM.
Help you out there, Mike?
Oh, okay, yes, I got the information, Tony. Yeah, that's Tuesdays and Thursdays is when I do my extra class, so, but it sounds like a good time to talk about how we got in, because we all came in a different way, I'm sure. So back to that to KG5P.
Much, Mike. Thank you, Tony. Okay, let's see now. What should I do next? Oh, yes. Right now it says announcements that I can do following this is the AMSAT, the Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 2 nets available to Dallas on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You'll need Echo Link installed, and you will need to register Echo Link. You can find the net under groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsat.org. hamsatnet.com. This net originates from Houston, Texas. Hamsatnet in Dallas-Fort Worth is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megacycles, private line, 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. The DIRC nets, Tony has told you about some of them, but the first week on Mondays is Ham Fixin's Net. The second week on Mondays is the Ecom 101 Net. The third week, Ham Fixin's Net, and the fourth week is Geek Net. Neck on 7 to 8 p.m. on Saturdays, and of course Skynet from 9 until 10:30, and the Afterglow movie after that. ARRL Net Traffic System is held every night at 6:30 p.m. on this frequency, and there is another one late night, I believe, on the Irving station. I'm not sure of the time. Can someone tell me what the time of the late night traffic net is? I can't remember that.
Inside BB.
Bill, go ahead, please.
146.72 Irving repeater at 10:30 p.m. That's 10:30 p.m. on 146.72. Also, once a month on the DARC meeting night, which is next Tuesday, the early net and the late net will both meet on the 146.72 repeater, so that people going to the DARC meeting can talk on the 88 repeater. Hope that's clear in 5BB.
Does anyone need any fills? Let's see now. Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate that. Tonight's Afterglow information. Hey, I think that's something that Tom, KE5ICX, can help us out with. Tom, can you help us out with that?
Why, yes, Chaz, and I'll be happy to do that. Tonight's Afterglow info is as follows. John Sullivan stared at the massive stack of QSL cards foraged away in a forgotten drawer, all of them waiting for postage from 1969. His father had been a major contester in the 1960s, a man with a passion for DX contacts, but lacking the impetus to finish off the paperwork. More than 100 hams were waiting for the Workdoll States ARRL Award, and his father hadn't sent them that final QSL. John fired up the old HF radio and made the call to his dad in 1969. Dad, you need to get those QSL cards out. These people have been waiting for over 30 years. Don't lecture me, kid. Hell, I haven't made most of these contacts yet. Besides, the Bureau is notoriously late in getting cards delivered. You get what you pay for. I gotta go. The 1969 World Series is on. For you, that's a rerun. The radio snapped off. Join us for yet another time-traveling adventure, this time with our favorite hobby as the topic, amateur radio. The movie called Frequency from 2000. Tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Mr. President, I appreciate that. So right now, I'd like to ask if there are any additional check-ins to check into Skynet tonight.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform, David Mobile in Saxe, Texas.
David, and I also have Elaine, KK6ZUB on Echo. I've got you checked in as well. All right, right now, we're going to talk about the Texas Astronomical Society and its monthly meetings and its weekly observing sessions. Is there anyone on the net that would like to provide this information about the task? Since I usually do that, I will do that. Once again, this is KF5JHA, and the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. They meet on the fourth Friday of every month, except in December. Well, actually, November is an exception because they meet on the third Friday, because that's the Friday before Thanksgiving. If they meet on the fourth Friday, it's oftentimes the day after Thanksgiving. That wouldn't work out very well. So, for 10 months out of the year, January through October, the Texas Astronomical Society meets at the University of Texas at Dallas at the Science Learning Center at 7:30 p.m. Oftentimes we have a special program between 7 and 7:30 for just general information about our dark website or about maybe new amateurs to the hobby or whatever. So between 7 and 7:30, there's a special program, but the meeting really starts at 7:30. You are encouraged to park only in lots H, I, or J, otherwise you might get a ticket. If you'd like to find a map of where to park, you can go to the UTD website to find a map for that. Meetings include all sorts of different things, including the constellation of the month, and a special topic as well. So let's see now. We also have observing that's on almost every Saturday of each week. First Saturday, Stargazer Star Party is held at the Spring Park in Garland. On the second Saturday is the Frisco Starfest in Frisco Commons Park in Frisco. Cedar Hill Starboat is held at J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill. Stars on the Rock is in the Shores Park in Rockwell. And on the fifth Saturday, we don't have anything yet, but we're in the process of planning something very special, probably within town somewhere, for amateurs to bring their own telescopes and some other things. So look forward to that, maybe on the next fifth Saturday of the month. It'll come up in a couple of months. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these have happened in 2019, either because of cloudy weather or because it was too wet in the location to set up. So, unfortunately, we haven't had any good observing. I think there was supposed to be a special observing session in the historical park in Farmers Branch last night, but I don't think that happened either. Does anybody need any fills or have any questions about the Texas Astronomical Society? More information out about the Texas Astronomical Society by going to texasastro.org on the internet. And you can even pull down the calendar and look up all the different information that's going on, different dates. Okay, now let's see. I think we might have somebody that could tell us something about the National Space Society. Is there anyone that could tell us about that? Did we lose Bill off the air? N5BB, Bill, are you out there to tell us about the National Space Society?
Yes, this is N5BB. I was listening, but I just missed the reference to me until you gave my call sign. This is N5BB. Thank you, Chaz. National Space Society meets on the second Sunday of every month at Spring Creek Barbecue, which is on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline in Irving, not too far from the south entrance of DFW Airport. I have no new news at this time, but if anybody has any questions about National Space Society, feel free to contact me. I do have one question, though, for the group. The National Space Society is trying to see if there's going to be a, oh darn it, I'm going to forget the name of it. The first astronaut. Hold on. I want to say Hugo, but that's not right. The Knight. Excuse me for forgetting the name of it. It's Yuri's Knight, Yuri Gagarin. So, unfortunately, we discovered that neither the Pearl Museum nor the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History are having a Yuri's Night this year. Does anyone know of a local Yuri's Night thing going on at any local museum or school? I'd like to hear about that. This is N5BB. If nobody knows. If anybody does locate a Yuri's Night in North Texas, please send me an email, n5bb@arrl.net. Thank you very much, N5BB.
Well, that's a new one to me, Yuri's Night. Sorry, I've not heard of that before. Okay, let's see. The next thing on our agenda is item number 4. That would be the discussion topic of the evening. I believe a great person that's been with us from just the beginning, Kelly, K5KTX, is going to give us some sort of topic tonight. Is that right, Kelly? The net is all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. This is K5KTX, and yes, I believe I'm doing the topic tonight. I did want to make one mention about the National Space Society that I haven't heard Bill talk about, but one of my very favorite people in the space world, Jeffrey Nopkin, was just recently named the president of the National Space Society, and if you've heard that name but can't remember why, he was part of the duo that used to do the Meteorite Men TV show on the Discovery Network, which was a really fun show. They went out hunting for meteorites, and he's written a few books, and he's done a lot of different TV shows. Really interesting person, and anyway, I just thought I would mention that. All right, so Tom had asked me to do a topic, and since I am the librarian for the Texas Astronomical Society, I thought been thinking a lot lately about different resources and things like that. And so during the coming months, I want to share with you several astronomy resources that have been very helpful to me as an amateur astronomer, whether it is a great star atlas, observing guide, or a how-to book. I'm hoping that each of you will also contribute to the conversation by sharing your experiences with any of the resources that I mention here. Now, as a disclaimer, I do not have any financial interest in any of these resources, and for the most part, I don't know the authors of these materials. I had a hard time figuring figuring out which resource to start with because there are so many to choose from. But every time I pick up tonight's book, it brings a huge smile on my face because this is one of the few books that I own where I actually have met the authors. The book is called Turn Left at Orion, and the 5th edition of this book was just released a few weeks ago, and today I added it to my Amazon wish list. I already have the 3rd and 4th editions in my possession. In fact, the 3rd edition was autographed by the authors back at the 2010 Texas Star Party, so I won't part with it. The book was first published back in 1989. The authors of this book are Brother Guy Consolmagno and Dan Davis. I met Dan Davis back in 2010 when he was a guest speaker at the Texas Star Party along with Brother Guy. He is a professor of geophysics at Stony Brook University in New York. Brother Guy Consolmagno, a Jesuit priest, is currently the director of the Vatican Observatory and the president of the Vatican Observatory Foundation. I have had the great pleasure to have some long conversations with Brother Guy, and he has been a speaker for, I think, at least 2 or 3 of the Texas Astronomical Society meetings. I even got to drive him around once. He is one of the smartest and funniest people that I've ever met, other than Chaz, of course. I believe he splits his time between Arizona, home of the Vatican's 1.8-meter telescope, and Castel Gandolfo, Italy, where at one time his office was higher than the Pope's, which is one of his little jokes that he likes to tell. He was also the curator of the Vatican meteorite collection prior to joining the foundation. Nowadays, you can buy a telescope with pretty sophisticated computer electronics that will find just about any object you want to look at in a matter of seconds. However, when I bought my Dobsonian telescope back in 2010, I made a decision to not use the hand controller because I wanted to learn the night sky. And let me tell you, this has paid off in big ways. So if you are a beginner and want to take advantage of the bigger aperture of a Dob, how can one learn how to not be dependent on the computers? Well, one answer is this book, Turn Left at Orion, which is one of the most popular astronomy books of all time. It is designed for beginners with Dobsonian telescopes or smaller reflectors and refractors, or even just binoculars. Everything in this book can be seen with a small telescope under ordinary sky conditions. Be sure to read through the opening pages about how to use the book and your telescope. It explains the type of objects covered in the book, how to find directions in a telescope, telescope maps, and even what to do about dew. You know, that annoying moisture that likes to collect on your telescope, making everything look like a nebula. After the introductory chapters, it provides an entire chapter devoted to the moon and one chapter for all the planets. As a side note, the lunar images in the book were provided by my Texas Star Party friend, Robert Reeves from San Antonio, who takes amazing images of the moon. He posts lunar images just about every day on Facebook on his own page, as well as on the Space Hipsters group page. So I highly recommend for you to follow him on Facebook. New in the 5th edition is a page devoted to observing the sun. In the 4th edition, the information on the sun was kind of squeezed into the chapter on planets, which was a bit strange to me. The next 4 chapters cover what you can see in the sky by season: January to March, April to June, July to September, and October to December. There's an additional 2 chapters that cover highlights of the northern and southern skies. And don't miss the very last page. It has a chart on finding geostationary satellites in your telescope field. The authors provide 2 views for each object in the book. One is the view with a small catadioptric or refractor telescope. The other is the view in a larger Dob. For binoculars, you can use the finder scope views as a guide. These drawings are very helpful in comparing what you are seeing in the eyepiece to what it should look like. It's a great confirmation that you have indeed found it. In addition, they provide a larger sky view to help you locate the object. They even give you directions for finding the object, thus the title of the book, Turn Left at Orion. My favorite part of this book are the ratings and tips provided for each object. The rating will show the author's estimation of how good the object will look in a daub, refractor, or binoculars. For example, the rating for the Hercules cluster, M13, which is a large, bright, globular cluster, is a 4 for both daubs and refractors, but they only gave it a 3 for binoculars. For tips, it says that you can see M13 in any sky, well, except for maybe tonight. It recommends a medium power eyepiece and suggests that the best time to see this object is May through October. For the Ring Nebula, M57, they gave it a 4 for daubs, 3 for refractors, and 1 for binoculars. They recommend dark skies, medium to high power eyepiece, and a nebula filter, with the best time to view M57 as June through October. Starting with the 4th edition, the book went to a bit larger format with a spiral binding, which makes it much easier to lay flat on your observing table. The book also has a dedicated website with lots of additional charts and resources, and that website is www.cambridge.org/turn-left. So, does anybody on the net tonight have any stories to share about this book, if you have it, or its authors? If so, I guess I will, if anybody wants to come with your call sign now, and we can talk about that. All right, I guess not. So, Chaz, I'm going to turn it back to you. This is K5 KTX.
Kelly. I remember 2 astronomy club meetings, and a third time he was here, he was at the December holiday party. I think that's 3 times I think that he's been here, so that's what I can remember. I am a fool because I have not had him sign a copy of his book when he's been here. I hope he does get to come back here again. I hope we invite him and he comes. Right, at this time, let me see if there's any more check-ins. Do we have any more check-ins to Skynet tonight? Any modes, any operation?
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Kilo 5, Alpha, November, Papa, Allen in Dallas.
I saw you on Echo Link earlier. I'm sorry. I do have it written down. I just didn't acknowledge you earlier. I apologize. Alan, can you give me your call sign again? I'm sorry. My ears weren't working right.
Kilo 5, Alpha, November, Papa.
Have A&P, Alan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. I guess right now, at this time, we're going to number 5 on our list of agenda items, and that would be What's Up? Let me turn this over to Chaz, KF5JHA. Very much, Chaz. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at Brookhaven Community College right here in the Dallas area. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. It's really the same title as the article that I write for the monthly newsletter for the Texas Astronomical Society. Over the asteroids that are monitored with orbits close to the Earth, we did have on March 23rd, that was a week ago, an asteroid 2019 SQ get about 10% closer to us than the moon. It had a speed of 8.5 kilometers a second, a size of only about 14 meters. But if that thing hit your car, that would not be a good thing. anywhere in your neighborhood would not be a good thing. We don't have any other close approaching asteroids that are predicted, but this one on March the 23rd wasn't predicted until, I'm not sure if it was just as it was passing or after it had already passed when we discovered it. The place that I get this information from and solar information and much more is spaceweather.com, and I recommend you going there and looking there. There's an interesting piece of information about we can actually tell magnetic storms from the sun with our brains, but we don't consciously know about that. You might want to go take a look at that at spaceweather.com. The last few weeks I've watched Venus in the early morning sky sink lower and lower to the horizon. In a couple of months, Venus will be so close to the sun in the sky that we'll no longer be able to observe Venus from here on the Earth. On August 14th, Venus will be at superior conjunction with the sun. Remember that conjunction means that they are close together to each other in the sky. If Mercury or Venus are in between the Earth and the sun, we call this conjunction an inferior conjunction. But when Mercury and Venus are on the other side of the sun compared to the Earth, we call that superior conjunction. On August the 14th, Venus will be on the other side of the solar system compared to the Earth, so that will be a superior conjunction. Right now, the distance between Venus and Earth is increasing. So on August 14th will be when the Earth and Venus are just about as far apart as they can get. Early morning pre-dawn sky to the far right of Venus, you can find the much fainter planet Saturn. Then further to the upper right, you can see the planet Jupiter, that's much brighter. And to the right of Jupiter, you'll see the bright star Antares. Why do I talk about the early morning sky? Because I get up and go to work early, and I get to see the early morning sky on a regular basis. We'll get to the evening sky in just a few minutes. The moon was in conjunction with Jupiter on March the 26th. Did you see that in the early morning sky? It was partly cloudy, but both the moon and Jupiter were easy to monitor in that morning sky. Easy to see through the thin upper cirrus clouds that we had. If you didn't, there'll be other opportunities in the future. On March the 27th, the moon was at third quarter, so the current phase of the moon is waning crescent. Tomorrow, on March 31st, is when the moon is at apogee, with a distance of 405,577 kilometers. Apogee is the point in the object's orbit when it is closest to the Earth. On April the 2nd, the moon and Venus will be in conjunction. And also on April the 2nd, you might get a glimpse of the planet Mercury just starting to be above the horizon, but it will be below and to the left of the moon on April the 2nd. And the moon will be at its new phase on April the 5th. The 5, JHA, Chaz, and this is Skynet. The last week on Skynet, I talked about the Messier Marathon that was scheduled to happen tonight by the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, TASS. This was their third try this spring at looking at the Messier objects all in one night, or as many as you can get in one night, but that was canceled due to the cloudy conditions that have prevailed. A window of opportunity in the fall to observe more than 100 Messier objects that maybe TASS will take advantage of, and we'll let you know if that happens in the future. Going back to the sky, in the evening sky, you'll find Mars about halfway up in the southwestern sky just after it gets dark. It'll be the pale orange object in the constellation of Taurus the Bull, close to the star clusters of Pleiades. Orion can be found looking high in the southwestern sky for about 3 stars, all in a straight line, evenly spaced, all about the same brightness. That makes up his belt. 2 bright stars above the belt represent his shoulders. Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse is on the left, while Betelgeuse is on the right. Two stars below the belt stars represent as Neves. The one on the left is Saya. The one on the right is Rigel. So at the last Astronomy Club meeting, we had a constellation of the month that was called Cancer the Crab. So I usually have a series of jokes that are related to the constellation of the month. Don't worry, Carolyn, I'll be talking about yours in just a few minutes. But the one that we had was Cancer the Crab at the Astronomy Club meeting. So what kind of food do crabs serve at their birthday parties? If you have any ideas, come right now with your call sign. So if you don't have the answer, it is crab cakes. Of course, crab cakes at a birthday party. Okay, if I have to explain it, it's not any good. Yeah, okay. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've given you? Or even a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I do know the answer to some of your questions out there. If you have any questions in general, please come now.
KE5 ICX.
ICX, please come now.
Why didn't Noah smack those mosquitoes on his arm?
So if you don't know, we have videos that are going on. You have to go to the W5FC website to find out the link to the video. And there are some slides that go along with not just what I'm talking about, but with almost everyone is talking about on Skynet. And I have questions that are there that I've posed. Yeah. Why, the question I have in there was, why didn't Noah just swat those two mosquitoes on his arm? So we wouldn't have those pesky things now. That's a question we'll ask when I get to heaven. Yeah. So anybody else have any other questions?
B.
Please, Mike, help me out of this. Go ahead.
Yes, Chaz, I think you know the answer to this. Who wrote the Book of Love?
Now, I think we discussed this either by email or something a couple weeks ago. Didn't I refer you to a song a couple weeks ago?
Yes, I know. That's why I thought you'd know that. All right. What happened to John F. Kennedy's brain?
We're a bit far afield now. Mike, that was a good one. We're going to move on at this point. Thank you so much. This is KF5JJ Chaz. Just to find out, do we have any other check-ins right now for Skynet?
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford.
Hey, thank you so much. I didn't catch the first part of your call sign. Could you come back again with that?
My apologies. I'm on Echo Link, so I forget the pause for that. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey.
I don't think that was all your fault. Might have been my fault, too. Oh, I do see you in the Echo Link window. Thank you so much. All right. There is somebody that's up on the agenda for number 6 on our item list for tonight's Skynet, and she is returning after an absence and much welcome. Carolyn, are you ready? KC5OZT, I'm giving that to you, is what I'm telling you. Carolyn, please, the net is yours.
Thank you, and tonight we are going to look for a little cat, Leo Minor. Small, faint constellation, and only one star is brighter than 4th magnitude. Its name means the smaller line in Latin. It was created by the Polish astronomer Huygens in 1687. He credited it from 18 stars between Leo and Ursa Major. And it's the 64th constellation in size, and it has the neighboring constellations of Cancer, Leo, Lynx, and Ursa Major. It's actually a relatively new constellation, and it has no myths associated with it. Strange. Look at a few of the stars. The brightest star is Praecipua, I guess. Praecipua. Its brightest star at magnitude 3.8, class K. It was intended to get the Alpha designation, but the English astronomer Francis Bailey, who decided to letter all stars brighter than 4th magnitude 4.5, he omitted the designation from his catalogs. So its Latin name, that means the chief star of Leo Minor. In fact, the next star, Beta Leo Minoris, is the only star in Leo Minor that has a Greek letter name. It's the second brightest star. It's a binary. It's a class G and an F. And the brighter star is magnitude 4.4, and the companion is magnitude 6.12. Brightest star, 4.5 magnitude, goes by the name 21 Leonis Minoris. And then we have another star system, 11 Leonis Minoris. This is a yellow dwarf primary star, class G at magnitude 5.4. And this primary component is classified as what's called an RS Canum Venaticorum type variable, which means it's a close binary star, and it has an active chromosphere, which can cause large stellar spots, like our sunspots, which in turn are big enough to cause variations in brightness. Vary by much, by about 400 magnitudes, but it's a fascinating class of stars. My star is HD 87883. It's an orange dwarf star, class K, at magnitude 7.5. But a planet was discovered orbiting the star on August 13, 2009. This exoplanet is a long-period planet. It takes 7.5 years to complete an orbit around the star. And moving deep sky objects. And number one, it goes by the name of Hani's Vorwerk. It's an unidentified astronomical object discovered in 2007 by Hani van Arkel, a Dutch school teacher. Discovered while taking part in the Galaxy Zoo project as an amateur volunteer. The name Hani's Vorwerk simply means Hani's object in Dutch. It's near the spiral galaxy IC 2497, and it appears as a bright blob. The object's believed to be the size of the Milky Way galaxy with a large central hole. Both the object and the galaxy are about 650 million light years from Earth. Star formation is in the region of the Vorwerk, which is facing the galaxy. It's thought to be a formation as a result of the outflow of gas from the galaxy's core and the gas interacting with the region of the object. The youngest stars in this region are several million years old, and theory suggests that Hani's Vorwerk is composed of remnants of a small galaxy, revealing the impact of radiation from a quasar event that took place in the central region of the IC 2497, I think about 100,000 years ago. The quasar events believed to have stimulated this bright emission. The theory explaining the absence of a light source is that because the object and the galaxy are between 45,000 and 70,000 light years apart, the Vorwerk is showing a ghost image of the illumination of the quasar, or a light echo of the events that occurred. Recent theory suggests that illumination may come from a supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy, and so it's produced by the interaction of the gas surrounding the galaxy and an energetic jet from the black hole. So you see, some amateurs can find some pretty fascinating objects there. Number two is known as NGC 3432. It's sometimes known as, of all things, the Knitting Needle Galaxy. It lies about 3 degrees southeast of the star 38. It appears almost dead-on at magnitude 11.67, and it can be observed in a large enough amateur scope. Number 3 is NGC 3344. That's a spiral galaxy seen face on about 25 million light years away, and it's about magnitude 10.5, so it's easily seen. It's a big enough scope. And number 4 is NGC 3486. Spiral galaxy seen almost face on, magnitude 11. And then there's just a couple more I didn't have pictures for. NGC 2859. It's a lenticular galaxy at magnitude 11.8. It has a prominent bar and a bright central region. But the outer disk appears as a detached ring. And finally, NGC 3504. It's a barred spiral galaxy at magnitude 11.7. It's a starburst galaxy, a region of massive star formation, and worth watching. 2 supernovae were observed in the galaxy in recent years, in 1998 and another in 2004, so that one's definitely worth keeping your eye on it. Leo may be a little lion, but he's got a lot of fascinating objects, so take a tour through him, and I think you'll enjoy it. So unless there's any questions, I'll turn it back to you, KC50ZT.
Thank you, Carolyn, so much. Welcome you back with open arms. That was really good. Annie's Boerwolf, I'm not sure how to pronounce it because I guess I don't know how to Dutch. But we actually talked about this in astronomy class this week with one of the astronomy classes, so that's great. Thank you so much. Well, let me see. Are there any check-ins before we go to the next segment of Skynet? Don't have Echolink, you need to get on Echolink because there's stuff going on there that has nothing to do about what we're talking about on the air. Something about planets, about aliens not wanting to come here because we're only a 1-star accommodation instead of 5-star. Oh, okay, I shouldn't go to Echolink. I should get back to what we're supposed to be doing here. Number 7 on our list of things for Skynet is recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, WB50ZL, can you help us out with that?
Yes, indeed, Chaz. This is WB50ZL. The first article is entitled Saturn's Rings Coat Tiny Moons. New findings have emerged about 5 tiny moons nestled in and near Saturn's rings. The closest ever flybys by NASA's Cassini spacecraft reveal that the surfaces of these unusual moons are covered with material from the planet's rings and from icy particles blasting out of Saturn's larger moon Enceladus. The work paints a picture of the competing processes shaping these mini-moons. The daring close flybys of these odd little moons let us peer into how they interact with Saturn's rings, said Bonnie Barati of NASA's JPL in Pasadena, California. Barati led a team of 35 co-authors to publish their work in the journal Science on March 28th. We're seeing more evidence of how extremely active and dynamic the Saturn ring and moon system is. The new research from data gathered by 6 of Cassini's instruments before its mission ended in 2017 is a clear confirmation that dust and ice from the rings accretes into the moons embedded within and near the rings. Scientists also found the moon surfaces to be highly porous, further confirming that they were formed in multiple stages as ring material settled into denser cores. It might be remnants of a larger object broke apart. The porosity also helps explain their shape. Rather than being spherical, they are blobby, that's a scientific term, and ravioli-like, ditto, with material stuck around their equators. We found these moons scooping up particles of ice and dust from the rings to form little skirts around their equators, Barati said. A denser body would be more bell-shaped because gravity would pull the material in. Perhaps this process is going on throughout the rings, and the largest ring particles are also accreting ring material around them. Detailed views of these tiny ring moons may tell us more about the behavior of the ring particles themselves, said Cassini Project scientist Linda Silker, also at JPL. One of the satellite studied the surfaces of those closest to Saturn. Daphnis and Pan are the most altered by ring materials. The surfaces of the moons Atlas, Prometheus, and Pandora, further out from Saturn, have ring material as well, but they're also coated with the bright icy particles and water vapor from the plume spraying out of Enceladus. A broad outer ring of Saturn, known as the E-ring, is formed by the icy material that fans out from Enceladus' plume. The key puzzle piece was a data set from Cassini's Visible and Infrared Mapping Spectrometer, VIMS, which collected light visible to the human eye and also infrared light of longer wavelengths. It was the first time Cassini was close enough to create a spectral map of the surface of the innermost moon, Pan. By analyzing the spectra, VIMS was able to learn about the composition of materials on all 5 moons. VIMS saw that the ring moons closest to Saturn appear the reddest, similar to the color of the main rings. Scientists don't yet know the exact composition of the material that appears red, but they believe it's likely a mix of organics and iron. The moons just outside the main rings, on the other hand, appear more blue, similar to the light from Enceladus' icy plumes. 6 uber-close flybys of the ring moons performed between December 2016 and April 2017 engaged all of Cassini's optical remote sensing instruments that study the electromagnetic spectrum. They worked alongside the instruments that examine the dense plasma and magnetic fields and how these elements interact with the moons. Questions remain, including what triggered the moons to form. Scientists will use the new data to model scenarios and could apply the insights to small moons around other planets and possibly even to asteroids. Do any of the moons on the giant planets Uranus and Neptune interact with their inner rings to form features similar to those on Saturn's ring moons? Birati asked. These are questions to be answered by future missions. Okay, next article. I don't know if we're going to have, well, it's kind of a short article. We'll see. Rivers raged on Mars late into its history. Long ago on Mars, water carved deep riverbeds into the planet's surface, but we still don't know what kind of weather fed them. Scientists aren't sure because their understanding of the Martian climate billions of years ago remains incomplete. A new study by University of Chicago scientists cataloged these rivers to conclude that significant river runoff persisted on Mars later into its history than previously thought. According to the study, published March 27th in Science Advances, the runoff was intense. Rivers on Mars were wider than those on Earth today and occurred at hundreds of locations on the red planet. This complicates the picture for scientists trying to model the ancient Martian climate, said lead study author Edwin Kite, assistant professor of geophysical sciences and an expert in both the history of Mars and climates of other worlds. It's already hard to explain rivers or lakes based on the information we have, he said. This makes a difficult problem even more difficult. But he said the constraints could be useful in winnowing the many theories researchers have proposed to explain the climate. Mars is crisscrossed with the distinctive tracks of long-dead rivers. NASA's spacecraft have taken photos of hundreds of these rivers from orbit, and when the Mars rover Curiosity landed in 2012, it sent back images of pebbles that were rounded, tumbled for a long time in the bottom of a river. It's a puzzle why ancient Mars had liquid water. Mars has an extremely thin atmosphere today, and early in the planet's history, it was also only receiving a third of the sunlight of present-day Earth, which shouldn't be enough heat to maintain liquid water. Indeed, even on ancient Mars, when it was wet enough for rivers, some of the time the rest of the data looks like Mars was extremely cold and dry most of the time, Kite said. Seeking a better understanding of Martian precipitation, Kite and his colleagues analyzed photographs and elevation models for more than 200 ancient Martian riverbeds spanning over 1 billion years. These riverbeds are a rich source of clues about the water running through them and the climate that produced it. For example, the width and steepness of the riverbeds and the size of the gravel tell scientists about the force of the water flow, and the quality of the gravel constrains the volume of water coming through. The analysis shows clear evidence for persistent, strong runoff that occurred well into the last stage of the wet climate, Kite said. The results provide guidance for those trying to reconstruct the Martian climate, Kite said. For example, the size of the rivers implies the water was flowing continuously, not just at high noon. So climate modelers need to account for a strong greenhouse effect to keep the planet warm enough for average daytime temperatures above the freezing point of water. The rivers also show strong flow up to the last geological minute before the wet climate dries up. You would expect them to wane gradually over time, but that's not what we see, Kite said. The rivers get shorter, hundreds of kilometers rather than thousands, but discharge is still strong. The wettest day of the year is still very wet. It's possible the climate had a sort of on-off switch, Kite speculated, which tipped back and forth between dry and wet cycles. Our work answers some existing questions but raises a new one. Which is wrong? The climate models, the atmosphere evolution models, are our basic understanding of the inner solar system chronology, he said. All right, back to Nat. This is WB50ZL.
So much, Carolyn. Mars, that's interesting, yes. Water on Mars. I've seen pictures of that. Glass of water sitting on a Mars bar. Okay. I think all of you have probably seen that too. I forgot to do something after Carolyn's segment on the constellation of the evening. I forgot to ask you, what's the hair in the back of a lion's neck called? Well, that's the mane. So Carolyn's segment was the main attraction tonight. Okay, I laughed at my own joke. I think I need somebody to help me get out of this. The next segment, space exploration and space history. I believe, Tony, NT5TM, you're next on the list. Did I wake you up? Tony, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Chaz, and I'd like to apologize again on the air. It turned out that at least part of that echo was my fault, so not yours. So sorry about that. India, through its Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, has proclaimed itself a space superpower because they have now shot down a satellite in space. This has made everyone unhappy because it's not terribly hard to do. I mean, you do have to be in the right place at the right time, but satellites move quickly. A large paint chip in the right place at the right time can destroy a satellite. This test does not have a good estimate for how much debris they generated by shooting down a satellite, but a similar test conducted by China several years ago produced about 2,300 pieces of debris the size of golf balls or larger, 35,000 pieces of debris the size of a fingernail or larger, and perhaps 150,000 bits the size of a paint fleck. Now, remember, even a paint fleck in orbit is dangerous. Tiny chips of paint have gouged dime-sized craters out of space shuttle windows in parts of the ISS. So space debris is a serious hazard, and in fact, some experts have warned that tests like these could lead to what's called the Kessler system, where one satellite breaks into pieces, those pieces break up more satellites, which produce more pieces, and the process continues in an avalanche. So congratulations, India, on becoming a space superpower, but please don't do that again. On a happier note, today is apparently opening day in Major League Baseball here in the U.S. and Canada, and NASA has been celebrating opening day with a video showing every Major League Baseball stadium from space. They posted this video on Twitter today. It's in alphabetical order, so Arlington comes up just a couple seconds into it. Yep, there it is. Actually, that's Echolink, so it was already there. So it's hard to see, but kind of neat. The drive behind this is in part astronaut Terry Virts, who, while he was on the ISS, made a promise that he was going to photograph every single Major League Baseball stadium from the ISS. Oh, we don't play baseball on Mars, but as Brenda said, water on Mars has been in the news lately. Italian astronomers have been pointing out that water on Mars, even now, if it's underground, might be more abundant and more active than previously thought. They've been looking at features known as seasonal so I've lost the name, seasonal lineae. These are streaks that form on crater rims that were often thought to have been formed when the crater was formed, or which have been thought to result from one-time flows of water, perhaps caused by giant cataclysms, landslides, avalanches, volcanic eruptions. However, careful study of pictures shows that these linear features change, and in fact they seem recurrent slope lineae. Recurrent slope lineae, that's what they're called. They change with the seasons, and they propose a good explanation for this is that they are not a consequence of a cataclysm, but being forced up from the ground by underground springs, much like if you dug into watery soil on Earth. With the seasons, they don't go away, and they look like water features. Maybe they are being produced by groundwater. The paper is out in Nature Geosciences. We do have one space-related birthday to celebrate this week. On March 25th, 1928, James Jim Lovell was born. Apparently, his nickname at one point in his life was Shaky. I'm glad he shed that before he became an astronaut. Lovell flew on Gemini 7, Gemini 12, Apollo 8, and Apollo 13. A member of the first crew to rendezvous in space and the first to orbit the moon. His Apollo 13 mission set an absolute altitude record for the farthest humans have ever gone from the center of the Earth. He was, of course, the commander of the famous and ill-fated Apollo 13 mission, and he was also the command module pilot for Apollo 8, the first Apollo mission to enter lunar orbit. He has a unique distinction. He's one of only 3 people to fly to the moon twice, and he's the only one of those to have flown there twice without landing. He was, in fact, the first person ever to fly into space 4 times. That's Jim Lovell, March 25th, 1928. Oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, some of the most dangerous words in history. We celebrated that on March 24th, 1961 with the Mercury Redstone Booster Development Flight, MRBD for Booster Development. Alan Shepard felt the spacecraft was ready to go, but Wernher von Braun insisted on one more uncrewed test flight to prove out a lot of minor improvements that had been made in the Redstone booster. The astronauts didn't like this. Had Shepard flown Mercury Redstone 3 on March 24th as originally planned, he would have beaten Gagarin into space by 3 weeks, although he would not have beaten Gagarin into orbit. As it happened, the flight was widely considered boring because everything went perfectly and nothing went wrong, and Alan Shepard had to be second. Actually, third. March 25th, 1655, neither Alan Shepard nor German Titov nor Yuri Gagarin were a gleam in anyone's eye. On that night, Christian Huygens discovered Titan, the biggest and most important natural satellite of Saturn. It's the largest moon and the second largest natural satellite in the entire solar system. It's the only moon known to have a dense atmosphere and the only object in space other than Earth where there is clear evidence of lakes and rivers, that is, stable bodies of liquid on the surface, although theirs are probably methane and ammonia, unlike ours, which are made of water. Titan is the most distant object from Earth to have a probe land on its surface, the Huygens Lander, named after Christian Huygens, on March 14th, 2005. TM. Now, there have been a lot of meetings in the history of NASA and the Air Force, and I usually don't cover these, but on March 26, 1971, a fateful meeting took place. NASA and the Air Force reviewed formal final design proposals for the space shuttle, it used old technology, and they confirmed the decision to select an aluminum-framed vehicle with a non-metallic, that is, ceramic thermal protection system. The Air Force had a big fear, you see. There was a shortage of titanium going on in the late 1960s, and they worried that if the space shuttle caught on, they'd build hundreds of them, and the shortage of titanium would only get worse. The Titanium space shuttle could have used metal shingles like Gemini and Mercury instead of tiles, and it would have been very forgiving of heat shield problems because titanium retains a lot of strength at high temperature. Instead, we got a heavy aluminum frame and a heavy ceramic thermal protection system that took a lot of extra time to develop and required intense labor and left the shuttle between flights to maintain and left the shuttle vulnerable to breaches in its thermal protection system. On March 27, 1968, Yuri Gagarin was killed in a training accident of his MiG-15 training fighter, and a lot of conspiracy theories were born. Yuri had been wanting to return to flight status after having been grounded for a number of years because of his fame, and he was accumulating jet flight hours to regain his official pilot status. Unfortunately, there were a couple of things against him. He'd been given an outdated weather forecast and an outdated piece of air pressure data that led him to set his altimeter incorrectly. Additionally, another fighter was in the area where he was flying. It seems to have overtaken him at high speed, causing a sonic boom and leading him to make an abrupt control movement of his own aircraft. This put him in a low-altitude spin that he could not recover from before the aircraft encountered the ground. March 27, 1969, Mariner 7 was launched. This was a flyby, which then reached Mars on August 5th of 1969. It returned 126 images of the Martian surface. It was pretty exciting, and most importantly, it contradicted the results of Mariner 4. Mariner 4 had taken the very first pictures of Mars from the space probe, and it just so happened that all the parts it looked at looked just like the moon. Well, Mars is not that much like the moon. It's interesting. And Mariner 7 was able to photograph different parts of the surface and show us much more of the fascinating terrain of Mars. It also gave us the first really accurate estimate of Mars's surface air pressure, which is just 7 millibars at best. 7 millibars. That's less than 1% of the air pressure at the surface of the Earth. March 27, 1972, the Soviet Union launched Venera 8. This was another of their Venera series of Venus atmosphere entry probes. It reached the planet. It dropped a parachute lander into its thick, dense atmosphere. Because the atmosphere was so hot, it even had to refrigerate the lander before it could be dropped in an effort to make it last a few minutes longer on the surface. Venera 8 confirmed earlier data that the surface was very hot, completely free of swamps and dinosaurs, and that there was a little bit more light than expected, comparable to an overcast day on Earth. On March 28, 1802, Heinrich Wilhelm Matthaus Olbers discovered Pallas, and the vermin of the skies began to multiply. When Ceres had been discovered, it was thought that asteroids were planets. Well, because there was only one. There was no S on asteroid. But then Olbers found another one, and they realized that, well, these asteroids were all over the place, and they were going to get in the way of future astronomical efforts. Pallas was the second asteroid. It's the third most massive one, being just a little bit smaller than Vesta. It contains 7% of the mass of the asteroid belt. March 29, 1807, Olbers said, "What? Another one?" 5 years later, he discovered Vesta. It's one of the largest orbits in the asteroid belt. It's about 300 miles around, and it was named after the Roman goddess of the hearth. It's the second most massive body in the asteroid belt after Ceres, about 9% of the entire mass of the asteroid belt. And it is, I believe, the brightest object in the asteroid belt. It's at least the brightest as seen from Earth. And unlike Pallas, it has been visited and orbited by a spacecraft. NASA's Dawn spacecraft orbited it starting in July of 2011. And it was pretty exciting because Dawn was the first space probe ever to orbit two celestial bodies to conduct science. It didn't just orbit the Earth in a parking orbit and leave. It orbited two targets in deep space. March 29th, 1974, Mariner 10 flew by Mercury for the first time. This was the first spacecraft to make use of a gravitational slingshot maneuver. It used Venus to bend its flight path towards Mercury. And it was the first spacecraft to visit Mercury, only one of two, counting the Messenger space probe. It was the first spacecraft to use solar sailing to help steer itself. The space probe was quirky and had lots of malfunctions, and one of the things its controllers came up with was to use the tilt angle of its solar panels to replace roll thrusters that didn't work. Sometimes say that Mariner 10 is my favorite space probe. That's sort of true, but it's more accurate to say that Mariner 10 has my favorite mission control team. Mariner 10 actually barely worked. It suffered from serious maneuvering, electrical, instrumentation, and control problems. But the mission managers managed to compensate for every single one of these problems in order to achieve a mission that was generally considered much more than 100% successful. Last but not least, a recent astronomical history event. March 30th, 2017, the first reuse of a rocket booster. This was SpaceX. Now, people had been used to throwing space boosters into the ocean. But on March 30th, 2017, they launched a geosynchronous communications satellite, SES-10, which was the second successful flight and the second successful landing of a Falcon 9 first stage that had been previously used in April of 2016. So that's a pretty neat, it feels like that's been going on forever and it's gotten routine, but it's only 2 years old as of today. This is NT5TM back to
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
And thank you, Hal. Back to normal state. Okay, great. There's a lot of things that are going on in history and in space, so thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate that. I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Right now, at the discretion of the net control, we're skipping number 9 and number 10 on our list because our time is up. So I'm going to ask if there's any last-minute check-ins for Skynet tonight.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving.
HYB, I think. What was your name again, sir?
It's November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving. Hi, Jeff.
I've got you. Okay, any more last-minute check-ins? This is the final call for Skynet check-ins.
Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Foxtrot Zulu, Darwin and Garland.
Darwin. Okay, that brings our total to 22 people on Skynet tonight. That's including your net control. So, we had 22 check-ins participating. Thank you all for checking in this evening. We hope you'll join us next week and every Saturday night at 2100, that would be 9 p.m., to discuss astronomy, space exploration. We do all sorts of things on this net. The sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations, and not just for this net, but for other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, hey, if I can do this, anybody can. Contact any of the net controls and send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and the astronomy in general on Facebook, Twitter, as well as the audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet information going to the w5fc.org website at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is KF5 JHA Chaz. Net control, or was that uncontrollable? I will be closing the net at 22:31 local time, and returning the net to local amateur repeater use. 73, everybody. Thank you.
JHA, KG5P.
Yes, sir.
Yes, question for you. Who put the ram in the Ramalama Ding Dong?
I have to get your questions that I can put into my PowerPoint before the net. These are awesome questions. Please, you can email me and tell me what these questions are. I can put it in the final slide. This is great. Thank you, but I don't have the answer. Do you?
No, nobody knows. That's the whole point.
And that's why I try to put those kind of questions at the end of my PowerPoint on WhatsApp. So.
I've been looking for the answer for 60 years and nobody's found it yet. So I don't know if a PowerPoint will help or not. All right, well, see you in a few minutes. We'll be waiting for Skynet, KG5P.
Are you leading us through this path of the Afterglow movie tonight?
I mean Afterglow. I've been sitting here trying to read the manual on my FTDX 3000, and that's my brain's fried for the evening. Quadrature phase shift keying, in case you might be interested. KG5P, standing by.
Sounds like it's for everyone. KF5JHA, I should probably be clear.
Nat, you did great, and it wasn't too punny, but it was punny. KE5ICX will be back in 2.5 minutes, something like that, 3 minutes for the Afterglow Movie Net, which is frequency from the year 2000. Or is it KE5ICX?
Does anyone need to use the net before we begin the Afterglow net? I meant, does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the Afterglow net? Please come now. All right, this is Whiskey Bravo 5 Oscar Zulu Lima, and this is our weekly Saturday night net, which is something we call Afterglow, which is a serious and intellectual discussion of film, video, movies, and such. It's a ton of fun, I'll have to say that. This is kind of the high point of the week for me a lot. I'm now going to call on Tom, KE5ICX, for a synopsis of this wonderful movie. It is called, Frequency. No, I'm not drunk. You know I don't drink. Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Oh my. Or I should do it right. Oh my. Okay, what is frequency? Well, I put together, I sent my crack investigation committee together, the CSI, crack scene investigation, and they came up with the following. The wiki group says the following: Frequency is a 2000 American science fiction thriller drama film. It was co-produced and directed by Gregory Hoblet, and was written and co-produced by Toby Emmerich. The film stars Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, I can never remember how to pronounce his name, as father and son, Frank and John Sullivan, respectively. It was filmed in Toronto and New York City. The film gained mostly favorable reviews following its release via DVD format in October 31st of 2000. On to the plot. In October 1969, FDNY, or New York Fire Department, firefighter Frank Sullivan, played by Quaid, dies in a warehouse fire, leaving behind his wife Julia and a 6-year-old son, John. 30 years later, in 1999, John, now an NYPD detective, is dumped by his girlfriend Samantha for being emotionally shut off. John's childhood friend, Gordo, finds a Heathkit single-band ham radio that once belonged to Frank, but fails to get it working. The night before the anniversary of his father's death, John is surprised to find the radio broadcasting during an occurrence of an aurora borealis and has a brief conversation with another man concerning the 1969 World Series, which John was able to recount in specific detail. Eventually, he realizes that the other man is his father, and in 1969, and tries to warn him of his impending death. The next day, while attempting to rescue a young girl, Frank remembers John's warning and manages to escape the warehouse. That evening, the two reconnect and learn a great deal about each other's lives. Subsequently, John begins to notice major changes in the present. His mother, Julia, no longer lives at her current address. Samantha doesn't recognize him. He learns that Frank died in 1989 from lung cancer. His boss, Sergeant de Leon, an old friend of Frank's, assigns him to investigate the Nightingale, a serial killer who murdered 3 nurses in 1960 and was never caught. However, John discovers that Nightingale is now connected to 10 murders, including that of his mother 2 weeks after Frank's now avoided death. Feeling guilty that their actions somehow led to Nightingale's committing more murders, John persuades his father to help him prevent these crimes from occurring. Frank manages to save the first victim, but when he tries to rescue the second, the Nightingale subdues him, steals his driver's license, and plants it on the victim to frame Frank for the murder. When Frank shares his experience with his son, John realizes Frank's wallet was in Nightingale's fingerprints, has Nightingale's fingerprints. John instructs his father to wrap his wallet in plastic and hide it somewhere in the house where John can find it 30 years later. Using the preserved fingerprints from the wallet, John identifies Nightingale as Jack Shepard, a former detective. In the original timeline, Shepard died from medical error the same night Frank died. But since in the new timeline, Julia didn't leave the hospital early after learning of Frank's death, she was at the hospital and prevented that arrow that would have killed Shepard. Meanwhile, Frank, do you have a nosebleed yet? Frank is approached by then Detective Satch DeLeon, who to arrest him on suspicion of murder. In the resulting struggle, the radio is knocked over and sustains damage, shutting it off. At the station, Frank attempts to prove his innocence to Satch by being able to accurately predict various aspects of the 1969 World Series, including the infamous Game 5, the shoe polish incident. While awaiting questioning, Frank activates the precinct's fire sprinkler system, escapes, and breaks into Shepard's apartment, where he finds jewelry taken from the victims. Shepard catches Frank in the act and pursues him, ending with a fight underwater where Frank appears to have killed Shepard. Satch, having realized that Frank is telling the truth, arrives in time to witness the struggle, find the jewelry from the victims, and Frank is exonerated. All right, I haven't seen the movie. Turn the radio off for the next 30 seconds. Frank fixes the radio, but while talking both to he and John, are attacked by the 1969 and 1999 versions of Shepard. Using the shotgun, Frank manages to blow off Shepard's right hand in 1969, and Shepard flees, causing Shepard's hand to disappear in 1999, just as he's about to kill John as the changes in the past affect the present. Furnishings in the house begin to change as the timeline rapidly fixes itself in 1999, and the elderly Frank, having quit smoking to avoid his death in 1989, appears and kills Shepard with the same shotgun and embraces his son. The novel concludes with the baseball game, including John, Samantha, now his wife, John's young son, Frank, Julia, Satch, and Gordo, who's now wealthy on account of having invested in Yahoo on John's advice through the radio. Okay, I have a nosebleed. That's what happens when you time travel paradoxes, and then the rapidly axiomatic timeline goes crazy. So that's it from me. This is KE5ICX. Taking care of my nosebleed now.
This makes me nuts, but it's so much fun. All right, we're going to take check-ins. Do low power short time first. Once your call sign, your name, your QTH, and whether or not you have seen this movie. All right, please come now.
November 10th. Tango
Panic.
I did see the movie.
Okay, I understand NT5 PM. Tony, did you check in?
Yes, Aaron and I saw the movie, and I'm pretty sure I heard both N5DD and KF5JAG also double. NT5PM.
Okay, and N5BB, Bill, Tony says you were checking in. Is that true? And did you see the movie?
Yes. Hi, Brenda. This is N5BB. I did see the movie, but I saw it 19 years ago when it came out. So it's a little fuzzy, so I'm probably going to be mainly listening rather than talking. Hit 5BB.
Was anybody else in this doubling thing? Please come now.
Yeah, 5, JHA, Chaz. I did not see the movie. I've been lurking around the last couple of weeks trying to figure out whether I want to watch the movie, so I'll be listening.
KF5JHA Chaz, and thanks for doing the net tonight. Did a wonderful job. It was fascinating. All right, regular check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Zombies Need Jobs, Frank in Flower Mound, and I did see the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving. Yes, we saw the movie back in '99 and just last night.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa, Mike, and Richardson. Yes, I did see the movie.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn and Louisville. I saw the movie originally, and I saw it again last night. KC50ZT.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Berlin, Dallas. I saw the movie when it came out, and I saw the movie last night.
T5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. I saw it in 1999 last night, and I also saw it in 2019 tonight, last night as well. KE5ICX.
Romeo Foxtrot Zulu, Darwin and Garland, and I did see the movie back in '99, but that's been quite a while back, so I intend to just listen. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. We got KT5ZNJ, Frank. Did see the movie. N5HYP, Tom and Company. So, yes, saw the movie. KT5P, Mike, yes. KC5OZT, Carolyn, yes. KF5TSK, Burl, yes. W5EBB, David, yes. KE5ICX, didn't give your name, but I suspect that's Tom, yes. And then I have, I think it's KE5RFZ, and I did not catch your name, although I know you gave it. So it's a little staticky. Could you please come back with that?
Sure. This is Kilo Echo 5, Romeo Foxtrot Zulu. Name here is Darwin in Garland, Texas.
Okay, Darwin, I understand you did see the movie, but you're just going to listen. Do we have any additional check-ins now?
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey, Jay, Weatherford. I did see I did see the film.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Fort Worth. I saw the movie.
I'm sorry, James. Come back with your call. We doubled.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Fort Worth. Saw the movie.
EMN. Okay, anybody else on Echolink? Alrighty, well, Friday, this is WB5OZL, and I did see the movie, and I believe I saw it next year as well. Okay, let's go down the list talking about the plot. We're going to start with Tony, NT5TM. Go ahead.
Good evening, Brenda. Aaron and I did see the movie, and most of the plot to be pretty standard Hollywood fare. I couldn't really remember it very well, so it was kind of fun to see it again. Aaron especially thought that the addition of a serial killer made the average science fiction time travel movie a bit more suspenseful. And I really liked the way that the ham radio in the plot was just a hobby an adult might have. It was a plot device, but it wasn't something nerdy or weird or incomprehensible or, they avoided all that kind of cliche stuff. With so many movies, it did seem to need a few cuts. At the end with the family baseball game, it seemed to be just a little overwrought there, a little too much. They should have cut the credits sooner. But by and large, it was an average fun movie with an average fun plot. I did like the way that giving his father good advice made him live so much longer, because my own grandfather on my mother's side basically did that. He quit smoking in the late 60s, and suddenly his health got radically better. So that really does happen. Very realistic part of the plot. NT5PM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. N5BB Bill. Oh, you said you were just going to listen, so you may have something to say later. KF5JHA Chaz. Oh, you didn't see the movie either. Okay, KG5ZNJ Frank. You did see the movie. Go ahead.
It's Kilo Golf 5, Zombies Need Jobs. Yeah, I saw the movie. I had never seen it, never heard of it, and I actually really liked it. It was a very fun movie to watch. That's the key word. It was fun. And it was very cool to see amateur radio shown in a movie like that. You don't see that ever. So I thought that was really cool, and also that they didn't portray the main character as some big fat nerd or something. Something like that. He was a very regular guy, so it wasn't like stereotypes. So I thought that was really cool. He was a regular guy, and and then they didn't overdo it. Like was said, it was a good plot device. It was cool that it was an old Heath kid. I thought that was really cool. Let me reset. I don't know. What can I say? I wish the bands were that good now as in that movie, right? So I thought that was kind of funny, and it was not a time travel movie, I guess, but I guess kind of a time loop. So it was cool. I liked it, and I liked the use of the Molson Golden beer that was in there. So that was definitely filmed in Canada. I thought that was funny that they were drinking Canadian beer openly, and they put a product shot in there. And also that they put a big product shot of Yahoo in there, which is funny because that was just a couple of years later. They got their lunch eaten by Google. And maybe you remember the old search engines like Jumbo and InfoSeek and those kinds of things. And Lycos was another good one. But the scene I liked the best was when the Ham MacGyver's the serial killer in the interrogation room. So don't mess with hams when there's electricity around. That's the lesson there. So I thought that was fun. So yeah, I thought it was a very fun movie, and I tried not to take apart the plot and the story just because I enjoyed it. And the time travel or the time movies, they always end up unraveling anyway. So I just enjoyed it. KG5ZNJ, back to you.
Alrighty. I understand we have some additional Echolink check-ins. If you please come now. Okay, none heard. Let's go back up to the list. N5HYP. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Brenda in the net. KD50CL N5HYP. Holly and I watched the movie. We did go see it back in 2000, I guess it really was. Is when it came out, although it had the date of 1999, I guess that's why I thought it. I didn't remember a lot about it, back then. I kind of remembered the plot, but I've rather enjoyed it, I think, more this time around than the last time. I really enjoyed it. I thought they did an interesting job of dealing with the timeline warping concept of you change the timeline, you change an event and it alters the timeline. And that's what they were experimenting and playing with here. So the plot twists related to that were very good. It plays very well right now. It obviously felt a little bit on the low budget side, but it plays very well, and was an interesting movie in the development of New Line Cinema, which initially just they made their original bread and butter on slasher movies, but this one was a little more cerebral. And we'll talk about technical stuff later on, but it was the only ham radio I know of before satellite stuff and full duplex that really was full duplex, which Eastgate radios in the 1960s weren't. But that's another story. Good story. Back to net. This is N5H5.
Okay, KG5P. Mike, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Brenda and the group. Well, I thought that the story itself was excellent. I thought the acting was, absolutely, very good. It was a nice psychological crime thriller, so I had no problems with that. What I did have a problem with was the science and the ham radio stuff, which was just atrocious. I'm not sure if I want to get into it, but maybe I might a little bit. But I think for the average viewer that didn't know the difference, they probably wouldn't have noticed anything. They would have just it really wouldn't have taken away from the movie at all. But for the few viewers that were hams, I would think if they had just hired some teenage general class license holder as a consultant, the radio itself was a Heathkit SB301, and that was the Heathkit knockout version of the Collins S-line. Very good radios, no doubt about it. In fact, a lot of the features were taken directly from the S-line. But the problem with it is they just had the receiver. They have the transmitter to go with it. It was probably the last of the Heathkit boat anchors. And you can't transmit on a receiver. then some of the terminology they used, the guy was unlicensed, but his father, who was talking to him, was telling him that he wasn't licensed to broadcast, which is a term that no amateur would ever use. Obviously, whoever wrote the script didn't have a clue to what amateur radio was. He might have had a CB at one time in his life. And there were some other issues I had with the science. This big Aurora business, I guess I can't criticize the science too much because the whole thing was just nonsense anyway, and that was part of the plot, this Aurora causing this time warp. But Aurora is not particularly good for SSB. There's propagation that you can get, but it's about CW is about as good as you can do with it. SSB, there's just too much fading and stuff like that. So, just to restate, I liked the movie. I thought it was a good movie. I didn't see when it first came out because I was afraid that they would just totally make a mess out of the ham radio part of it, which they did. But other than that, the movie was perfectly fine, a good psychological thriller, taut crime drama. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Back to that, KG5P.
Hey, KC5OZT, Carolyn, what do you think?
I liked it back when I first saw it, and I liked it last night. And I like the Heath kits. I've still got one sitting around here. And I don't know how it was. I don't know how they explained the Aurora. Being exactly so many years apart. It looks like they're up so far north that they get auroras quite often, not like we do. March '89 is the only one I remember here, but it was a fascinating way they developed the plot, and then saved everybody. I like the movie, it's very fascinating the way they wound the plot up. KC5OZT.
Thank you, Carolyn, and it's good to have you back. KF5TSK Burl, what did you think about the plot?
This is KF5TSK. Well, the first thing was, I say, going back to that transmitter that he's supposed to be on 15 meters, but they kept showing this antenna that looked like a TV antenna. And the way the whole thing developed, with him being able to write on the desk and it come out in the future, it was more of, it wasn't really radio propagation or the aurora, or it was more of a time warp. Another thing I thought was, really ridiculous was, Dennis Quaid was going to shock this detective by pouring a cup of coffee on the floor, wiring a doorknob that probably couldn't, conduct electricity, and yet you're going to shock him and knock him out. It's so many things that, didn't make sense. So like I said, he didn't have a complete, Heathcat, yet he was talking, and it was more like it wasn't really radio. It was more of a time warp. KF5 TSK back to net.
Thank you, Burl. W5EBB David, go ahead.
The technology of the time difference there, and then the ability to span both times, and the ham radio in general was not based on any kind of radio technology. It was caused by a localized subspace distortion and a local field of tachyon oscillation in a temporal feedback loop. Just to set the record straight on that. I mean, it was a good movie. I remember seeing it back on DVD, not near the 2000 date, but it fits the general rule about time travel, which is don't mess with the timeline, or the timeline will mess with you. And sometimes you can make it change in good ways, sometimes in bad ways. But it pretty well addresses the canon sci-fi travel rules. But, you know, kind of like Back to the Future, the end kind of ties things up a little bit too optimistically with a nice big Mobius loop bow. But, you know, hey, happy endings are hard to find. You know, enjoy it when you come across them, I guess. Now, folding in the Matrix series, the Matrix theory, changing the past introduces an imbalance in the equation. The equation, in quotes, whatever the equation is. And you need somebody like a Neo of that caliber to really balance it out in a uniform way. And per the Star Wars theory, there must be a balance between good and evil, the light and the dark. But the weighting factors between good and evil are not necessarily the same. So in this case, in this movie, they went back and changed things for the good. But a little bit of good change might be balanced by a whole lot of bad change sometime later, which we didn't get to see what the additional butterfly effects might have been afterwards. So follow me here, because there's a lot to this. You got to stay focused here. For example, a single hero firefighter from Ladder 93 might be balanced with the loss of a whole, maybe Flight 93 a year later. You know, so the balance of good and bad, you got to be careful when you go back in time. It's a little dicey. W5EBB.
All right, KE5ICX. You're an expert on time travel, having done it yourself so many times. Tell us your opinion.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. And I do have a time machine. It's a cardboard box. It's out in the garage. I climb in it, and then I stay in it for about 5 minutes. And then I get out of the cardboard box, and it's 5 minutes in the future. I checked my watch. Now, about the film itself, I actually fell asleep twice. I watched it, and I changed the thing from Saturday last week as far as the film we were going to watch, switched it around, because I thought, this is really great, except I fell asleep. I watched it again last night, and as you may have noticed, I fell asleep again. So there's something about time travel that makes me fall asleep. So I didn't get to see the second half of the film. Well, I vaguely remember some of it, waking up when there was loud noises, and that's fine, I guess. But I've got my cardboard box. Did I tell you about that? In any case, I thought it was interesting. I liked the first part a lot. Let me reset. As we all do, we really kind of, want to connect with the parents and family and all of that, and they do that in spades at the very beginning, and I think that's really great. I like the idea of some of the rewriting time things, which are always creepy, but pretty fun to see on screen, and the fact that there's this concurrent thing going on as they talk on the radio. Probably the thing that really drives me nuts more than anything about it is that as they stand up and they walk around, they don't need to talk on the microphone. It's almost duplex, all that stuff, you know. those sort of things drive me nuts. And they're talking on the same radio. Now let's talk about time travel paradoxes and amateur radio license later, because I have serious questions about whether the FCC should be involved in this conversation. Ultimately, though, it ended up too neat, too nice, and all that. However, I kind of for it. It's a good film. I like the actors in it. Both principals were exceptionally good in this, I thought. Overall, I thought the story could have been a little bit better, but the idea, let me reset again. The story could have been a little sharper, I guess, sort of this mystery thing going on. But overall, I really did rather enjoy it. And I liked the visuals in it, even though it was a low-cost film. But we'll get into that later. I'll give it a thumbs up with the guys in Chicago. KE5ICX.
Okay, KE5RFX. Darwin. Oh, I'm sorry. You said you were just going to listen. KG5BZWJ. Go ahead.
This is KG5BZWJ. Okay. Where to start here? Instead of 1.21 gigawatts to power a flux capacitor, we have a 50 gigawatt of hemispheric power to somehow magically create a time warp, I guess, to between two places or something. It just really does remind me a lot in terms of the way it works, of how Back to the Future works, and there's just a lot of similarities. Just the weird. I think the simultaneous happening in the quasi-present versus the character, although it's a little bit different in that in Back to the Future, of course, the present character is in the past, and that bit's a little weird, but the way the paradox works still reminded me a lot of Back to the Future's handling of it. It was still an interesting film. I mean, not that Back to the Future is bad or anything. It's a fine, entertaining film. Both of these films are. It's a little weird that I felt like the film was divided into two segments. There was it's like it almost felt like a climax at the very first third when, hey, they actually recognize what's going on, and the son is getting back with his dad, son that he never got to have all these conversations with, after the fact of the death and everything, and then it's just the whole second part, just which was 2/3 of the film, just seemed like a weird addendum. But actually, let me reset. Even so, the film executed that part, all right. Some things I kind of want to comment on. I'm not sure I should comment on. Yeah, I think I can save those comments to later. I'll save other comments for later on. This is KG5BZW.
Okay, KG5BMN. James, go ahead.
This is KG5PM in James here in Fort Worth. I kind of thought it was one of the more enjoyable movies that we've had on this series, or the Afterglow movie net. Kind of like the way that they mixed the old historical aspects and the new, him getting into the new stuff together, and kind of twisted the plots around to explain what was happening and keep things moving along. Thought this had a couple of subplots in it, especially when they got into the murder of the nurses and trying to solve them. And the one issue, kind of like with the radio, was I had an issue, and I thought that they needed a better consultant for the fire issues. I didn't really care for that opening scene with the gasoline and the sewer system. I didn't think that was a very realistic idea, but that's my opinion. And some parts of it got a little confusing every once in a while when you couldn't quite figure out what they were jumping back and forth to until after they did a little bit of further clarification on how things were going. KG5PM in, back to the net.
ZL. I'd never seen this movie before. I did like it. You can't watch a time travel movie and go, oh, that's just not scientifically accurate. You're going to have to suspend disbelief on with movies like this, or you just never make the movie, and you just have to sit back and enjoy it. And love the actors. I actually like the story, and I don't have any real complaints with it. I found it very enjoyable, and the plot was, I thought it moved along pretty well. So, yeah, I liked it. Okay, any other check-ins? Any mode? Please come now. Alrighty, we're going to go back up to the top then and talk about characterization. NT5 PM. Tony, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I wish I had more to say because, yep, I enjoyed the movie. It was a good Hollywood flick, but none of the characters really were that deep or interesting to me. They were all adequate, but I'm hoping other people have more interesting comments to make, because although I usually go on about characters for some time, in this movie they were all just kind of, well, they were there. NT5 to you.
Oh, okay. Let's see. N5BB, you're just going to listen, but do you have anything to add?
This is N5BB. What I remember about looking at the movie 19 years ago was I was kind of let down by it. I didn't think the science and the amateur radio part was very realistic. So I was hoping for more, let's put it that way. They actually had they were kind of advertising this at some local movie theaters. So I saw it in a movie theater in North Irving, with some other hams. If I remember correctly, we set up a table there to see people about the amateur radio, etc. But the movie didn't really present amateur radio in a positive or negative fashion. It was kind of neutral on it, if you ask me. Anyway, I guess that's all I got. It's been fuzzy, but I just didn't want to watch the movie again. Once was enough, even though it's fuzzy in my memory. N5BB.
Okay, N5JHA Chaz, you didn't see it, but do you have any comments on things you've heard? I think he's left us. KG5ZNJ, Frank.
KG5ZNJ. Yeah, well, the character as well. I thought the cast was really good. They all did their job, and they all had great chemistry. Dennis Quaid, he's a great actor. He's not the same caliber as, say, John Saxon, but he was definitely good enough to do great in this movie, so I enjoyed that. And I was just reading here that Sylvester Stallone was originally going to play Frank Sullivan, and for whatever reason that fell through, and Dennis Quaid came in to save the movie, so that would have been a very different movie. The one who played his son, Jim Caviezel, I've never even heard of that guy, and I don't recall ever seeing him in my life, so he did a good job. It was kind of cool to see a movie that's getting to be a little bit old and, finding an actor I've never seen before. Usually I'm really good at memorizing actors, so that was kind of cool, and he did a good job. And the Nightingale, the serial killer, was a very scary dude, and that actor played it. And I don't ever remember seeing that one either, and he played that one really great. So it was good overall. I don't have any complaints about the characters. Maybe they could have gone deeper into the serial killer. That might have been kind of cool, but you can only do so much in the time frame of a movie. So I liked it. KG5ZNJ.
Oh yeah, Jim Caviezel. He's one of my favorite actors. He was in that TV series called Person of Interest, which is one of my favorites. And he played Jesus Christ in I think in 2 movies, and has won awards. And I don't know why he doesn't have a lot more fame, because he's just a fabulous actor. Okay, N5HYP, Tom, go ahead. Well, I guess he's not with us anymore. We'll check back with him next round. KG5P, Mike, go ahead.
Well, the characters, they might have been a little shallow, but I think that this was probably one of the ones that I liked Dennis Quaid in the best. I'm not really a big Dennis Quaid fan, but he did better than most. He smiles too much. I mean, there's just something about him that he's always, he's got that stupid grin on his face. But he didn't really do it in this movie. And usually, a lot of times, the little kids just play really obnoxious brats. And the kid that played his son, or that played him, or the character that he was when he was a kid, wasn't too bad. He wasn't really a nasty little brat. I'm looking at IMDb here, and it says this the Frank Sullivan character. Your actors that were considered to play the Frank Sullivan. Dennis Quaid were Mel Gibson, Harrison Ford, Michael Keaton, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robin Williams, Kurt Russell, Kevin Costner, Patrick Swayze, Ed Harris, Bill Paxton, Liam Neeson, Ron Perlman, Stephen Lang, some guy I don't recognize, Michael Biehn or something, Alec Baldwin, Kevin Bacon, John Travolta, John Malkovich, James Woods, William Dafoe, Gary Sinise, Tommy Lee Jones, and Jeff Bridges, Christopher Lambert, wherever he is, maybe some of you know, Rutger Hauer, and Michael Norrie. I didn't think he did that bad of a job. He played really a credible character, instead of just the smiley comic roles that he usually does. and Dennis Quaid were in the movie Wyatt Earp together. If you remember that one, there was part in there where they were sitting around talking Latin to each other in some saloon. Anyway, I not too bad. I really didn't. And yeah, the acting wasn't great, but it could have been a lot worse. And then again, they couldn't get too deep into some of these characters because it had a lot of characters in them. And if we just had one or two, they could really get into them. But they had a whole handful of characters. So it's probably one of the better movies we've seen in a while here. Back to that KG5P.
Okay, KC5OZP, Carolyn.
I agree with everybody. The main characters did a very good job, and somebody mentioned something about the Heath kit. Well, I know some Heath kits have speakers inside, but getting back to characters, okay, at the beginning you had a few, and that made it easy to follow the plot. And as they got on farther in the movie and added more victims to be saved and everything, it began to get a little bit more confusing. You really had to pay attention, to as the plot got more complicated. But overall, they did a good job. KC5OZP.
Okay, Carla, thank you. KF5TSK Burl, go ahead.
This is KF5TSK. Well, one of the things that I noticed was, at the beginning of the movie, they had to press the talk button, and at the end of the movie, they didn't have to press the button at all. They could just talk as though they both had Vox. One of the things about the characters that seemed like it was too many characters in the movie. One of the things that bothered me is they would show a photograph, and it was like, guess who's missing from this photograph? And I was like, this is really a mentally challenging thing to sit there and figure out, well, who's missing from this photograph? And it's like, oh, we got this person back, but we're missing this person. But I think there were maybe too many characters. It was, I guess trying to, keep track of who was who, and this was in the past, this was in the future. It was a challenge all by itself. KF5TSK, back to net.
Okay, W5EBB, David.
Well, I thought Dennis Quaid was a good choice for the Frank Sullivan role. He had that good New York or Boston accent. I'm not sure which it was supposed to be. It sounded like Boston to me, but I guess it was New York. But he did the characterization well as a proud, bold, confident firefighter and loving dad, husband. He played such an iconic role very well, I thought. Dennis Quaid has been in a lot of good movies. Some not so good, but a lot of good, memorable ones. Of course, he was in The Right Stuff. He played Gordon Cooper back in 1983. Let's see. Also, I think that year he was in Jaws 3D. I know everybody remembers that. But back to The Right Stuff. During their rapid-fire topics on that first night of QSL between him and his son. We hear them briefly mention Apollo, and Frank Sullivan asks, "Hey, whatever happened with the Apollo program?" And then they move immediately on to some other topic of reflection. But yeah, Dennis Quaid, good actor, and I saw him once sitting in first class as I walked past to my rear of coach economy seat. So I feel like I know him. Good actor. W5EBB.
Wow, your brush from fame. Okay, KE5ICX, Tom.
Well, thank you, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Well, I don't know what to say except this. I liked the characters, and I like Dennis Quaid, and I like Jim Costabile, or however you pronounce his name, from the various things that they've done through the years, and I thought that they really had a nice chemistry here, going through the radio and talking to one another in a father and son way, an idealized way. Everybody would like to have that in their own lives. And maybe some people did. I don't know. It was pretty cool, though, and seeing that and trying to connect up again after 30 years. That was a very touching, and I thought it was well done. And then they went into the whole thing with the killer, the serial killer in that, and that was pretty creepy. Then all of a sudden, like everything else, folded upon itself. I think Frank mentioned this, and I didn't take any notes tonight like I usually do, but it has a tendency, time travel has a tendency to unravel. And then the characters sometimes become kind of cartoonish in a way, because now they have to anticipate and recalibrate and do all those things, and then suddenly the story itself starts to get a little unstable, because that's the idea. And the characters don't always fill in a heroic way in that regard. I don't know. I guess I digress a little bit on that account. That's any problem outside of the nosebleeds that I have with time travel stories and the time travel characters, as they have to deal with it. Every time travel movie has the same problem when it comes to characterization. They over-anticipate to the point that they become cartoon characters. And we have a desired end. How is it going to end? And it becomes almost predetermined, even though it's not supposed to. The time travel stories always end the same way. Maybe they don't, but they keep retreading the same things over and over again. I'll digress and say this. I remember Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation, when they blew up the Enterprise before every commercial, became a cliche. And in some ways that happens here. So I guess I'm meshing the plot with the characters themselves and the acting that goes along with it, saying that it becomes less authentic towards the end until we have the mushy end where everybody's happy and together again. I don't know. I always had mixed feelings about time travel stories, except Somewhere in Time, which I thought was a fantastic story. If I can get that darn thing in our rotation, I will. KE5ICX.
Okay, KE5RFZ. Darwin, I know you said you were just going to listen, but do you want to have any comments? Okay, KG5BZWJ, go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Characters. I'm not sure that there's anything I can really say that the others haven't already said. I actually, I thought the characters, I like the characters. They, not much you can particularly say about growth, except for maybe Satch's character, because, hey, well, I mean, okay, I take that back. I mean, everybody in one place or another has to come to terms with the fact that they're some sort of time warp is happening or something and all that. So I guess that you could consider that some sort of weird character growth that, you know, I thought was handled pretty well by each of the actors. I thought Dennis Quaid was a good choice. Jim Caviezel, I have, you know, I like him as an actor, but sometimes I think he just has a tendency to underact. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain what I think about how he acts and how he acted here. But actually, you know, I guess I can't really complain. There's not really that much you can say, because a lot of the growth that does happen is not really even due to character development. It's due to time-space development, you know. A lot of the stuff that just the feature of time travel in general just kind of manages that and all. And anyway, yeah, I think I need to save some time, because I do want to discuss some of the special effects, even though they're not really sci-fi related or anything. But I think they are worth discussing. So save my words for later. KG5BGW.
Okay, KG5PMN.
This is KG5PMN. Can't really add too much on the characters. I thought maybe Dennis Quaid was a little bit stronger of the two main characters, and then some of the other police officers were kind of on the stronger side. But as far as the characters goes, I don't really think there was anybody that really stood out for me. KG5PMN, back to the net.
OZL, and the actor's name is Jim Caviezel. And if that were my name, I'd change it to something everybody could pronounce. But I don't know. It started his career. He's definitely had steady work. I liked the characters. I thought they were believable. The actors were good. I just have no complaints at all about the characterization. You know, it's a little bit cliched. These people are almost too perfect. You know, just they were just wonderful in every way, and so that's, you know, there weren't any fatal flaws there, or, you know, wasn't much conflict in their personal relationships other than with the guy's girlfriend in the beginning. Okay. Any more check-ins? This is where we usually do special effects, and since this isn't really a sci-fi movie, there's not much to talk about, but you can talk about that or anything else you want to talk about in this movie. And T5PM, Tony, go ahead.
again, Brenda, and thank you, everybody, for your comments. I know it's hard to stay up and stay coherent for this event, and hard to be net control. It's often funny to me how every explosion in every movie looks like an accident involving diesel fuel, because, of course, that's the thing effects technicians love to use for explosions. Well, at the start of this movie, at least it made sense because it was a fuel tanker. The auroras were okay, very bright and prominent, more so than any aurora ever is, but you do have to make sure the audience sees it. Erin was somewhat annoyed by the repeated use of slow-motion objects falling. She found that effect to be a little annoying. But, by and large, the effects seemed small and supportive. And she did want to mention that she did like the father, Dennis Quaid, better than the police officer as a character. Thought the father firefighter was a better, better, more interesting character. Other than that, not a lot to say. Enjoyed it, good, solid popcorn type movie, and T5 TM.
Hey, NCIBB, Bill, do you have any comments?
Hello, Brenda. No more comments. Inside BB.
And I think Chaz has left us. KG5 ZNJ. Fine, go ahead.
KG5ZNJ. There wasn't that many effects, but the only one that mattered was the heat kit fixing itself. I thought that was awesome. KG5ZNJ.
Okay. N5HYP. Oh, I think you... N5HYP, are you still with us? I think he was no longer here the last time. KG5P, Mike, go ahead.
Okay, well, in the special effects, I thought they were about adequate. I mean, there were some explosions and stuff, but it was a movie about a fireman, so that's what you get. But they didn't overdo it, as sometimes is done. So I found that it was just about the right amount of special effects. So I didn't have any problem there. That's about it for me, KG5P.
Okay, KC5OZT, Carolyn. Special effects.
I think especially the fire ones and some of the others were pretty realistic. So they did a good job on those. And I guess you can say I really love the auroras. Although it looks just like the picture you see of them all the time, but still, they're beautiful. And it's nice to have them included in the film. KC5OZT.
Okay, KF5PSK, Burl.
This is KF5PSK. I thought, most of the scenes were very realistic. There were things that, wasn't perfect, but as a movie it was good. I liked the characters. I liked the movie as a whole. KF5PSK back to net.
W5EBB, David.
The Aurora Borealis was very pretty, shiny, shimmery, and very sparkly. Very sparkly. W5EBB.
KE5ICX, Tom.
All right, there weren't a lot in the way of special effects, but I kind of liked the house. It was pretty cool. With the I always wanted to have a house like that. I did live in a house like that for, what was it? For a year or two. down in Wyandotte, Michigan. It was pretty cool. They've since torn it down and they put in some really crappy house. I saw it on Yahoo. What is it on Maps? On Maps, Google Maps, and they replaced it with something really boring. But in any case, yeah, I thought overall, I thought that the look and feel of the film was very good. Yeah, there was a lack of special effects, but I think also there's cinematography has a lot to do with it. And I thought the film looked really great. KE5ICX.
KT5BZWJ.
This is KG5BZW. This is a film where I like what they did with the special effects. There was some obvious, like the explosion and all. It's one of those films where I almost have to wonder how many special effects were actually done. As you know, y'all might know, some of the modern films that aren't even, sci-fi, sometimes to get something to be a period piece or whatnot, that they often do, constructions, either CGI or whatever, to make something look like it would or did or whatnot. And I can see there wasn't that much photography of landscapes or building, well, admiration shots, if you want to call it that, where you're given time to admire the certain landscape or whatnot. So, but there's lots of little things like the transition between, okay, he died, the father figure died 30 years ago to dying 10 years ago. Maybe some of that was more about the cinematography, the choice of, what the eye shot and what they did with it. Of course, that was a montage of a lot of stuff, but the point I'm trying to get at is there's probably more special effects to this film than you might think, and I think that's one thing I like about this film. I think that the special effects that do exist are more complementary than, oh, hey, right here in front of you. They're not the main attraction. They just kind of complement and show you what environment setting. Let's just put it that way. What I wanted to say about this film was that, in fact, I couldn't really even identify any special effects associated with the time travel, but that's of course not true because, well, what we have the Aurora. That is the time warp device, I guess. But it's not it's not. Again, what's there is environmental. What special effects that I could remember, mostly environmental, from the fire to the Aurora to the photographs and the I guess the few that are really important. Looks like I timed out here. Let me reset. No, I guess I've already set. But anyway, I thought the effects were well done for what you could expect. Anyway, all right, this is KG5BZW.
KG5PMNs. Go ahead.
This is KG5PMN. As far as special effects go, I don't know how many they actually had in this movie. Like I said, I didn't really care for the opening fire scenes, although the warehouse looked pretty good. After observing many training fires and watching movies, training fires use a propane burner and jets to shoot flames out where they can, firemen can run their water hoses over, and once they start cooling things, then they just cut the propane off, and that's it for the training fire. But so many movies I watch where they have a big fire scene in a warehouse or buildings, I'm just thinking, sitting there looking at it, that looks like just another propane burner going off in the background that's not really catching anything on fire. But the warehouse looked fairly good to me. And I also liked the Northern Lights when they were showing them there. KG5PMN, back to the net.
Okay, this is WB5OZL. I thought the fires were pretty believable as far as movie fires go. I read that aside from the main characters, all the firefighters in the movie were real firefighters. So I thought that was pretty cool. Going back to characterization briefly, Dennis Quaid is in some commercials lately where he's it's an insurance commercial, and he tells us how likable he is. Yeah, he's just always been really likable, and he is in this movie here. He's just a really good everyman kind of character. Okay, anybody, you just jump in if you have any other comments, and we'll make the rounds. So please come now.
KE5ICX.
All right, KE5ICX, go ahead.
All right, my question is, what are FCC rules as far as time travel? Do you have, if you talk to somebody who is dead in 1969 over amateur radio, are you allowed to talk to them? Is their license still in force? And what happens if it has been redirected to someone else through the vanity call system? When you're talking over a time warp, are you able to communicate with the original owner of the license? This really concerns me because, time warps happen all the time. We know that. I got my cardboard time machine out in the back. So that always concerns me. The other part is that what license class do they actually hold? And can I speak to them? If I don't have that license capability back in 1969, which I didn't then, I'm talking to somebody then, am I in violation of FCC rules either in 1969 or in 1999, which in either case I didn't have a license? Would I be able to talk to either person in 2019? These are questions that seriously concern me. That's all I have to say. KE5ICX.
W5EBB.
W5EBB, go ahead.
Yeah, to address this, in the year 2022, the FCC provided a clarification for the rule, which was retroactive to 1969, which said that as long as the transmitting station holds a valid license to transmit, then it is legal to do so. W5EBB.
N5BB.
Thanks for that clarification, David. N5BB, go ahead.
N5BB. Well, now you brought it up, Tom. I was licensed in 1969, so I think I've got standing to discuss this. If you've got a cardboard box space machine, then you must be Commander Spiff, nicknamed Calvin, and you got to find Hobbs. Hobbs is the only one that really understands the metaphysical control of cardboard box spaceships and time machines. N5BB.
KG5ZNJ.
KG5ZNJ.
KG5ZNJ. Tom, you have to be an extra to talk to the wormhole. And it's only legal to do so if the communication is of a personal nature. KG5ZNJ.
Okay. Well, I always draw the proper knobs and buttons on the inside of my cardboard box, and that's how I operate my time machine. Any additional comments?
Oh, Miss Brenda, I always have an anything. The anything for next week will be, this is an easy one. It's a quick 1 hour. This comes from a Canadian miniseries called The Champions from 1968. I'd completely forgotten about this show until I don't know when. Somehow I had an epiphany and realized there's an old TV show that I loved from 1968. It lasted 15 minutes. Or an eternity in time travel. I'll post this in the usual places, the Afterglow movie on Facebook. If you are listening and you would like to be included in the distribution list, on email, just send an email to Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX at yahoo.com, and I will put you on the list, and you can join us or watch along. The Champions, British espionage, science fiction, occult, detective fiction, adventure television series. How many adjectives can I give you? Next week, be there or be cubed. KE5ICX.
Okay, we had 14 check-ins tonight. We're going to close the net down at midnight 01. This is WB5OZL clear.